Hi loves, welcome back to Wellbeing with Marissa. Today I have the beautiful Sera Heywood joining me. How are you, Sera?
I am so thrilled to be here.
Thank you for joining me.
It's an absolute honor. It's a pivotal moment. I think we've shared some really monumental processes together, so it's really a thrill to be here.
Yeah, I'm just so excited for this interview, guys. Sera is absolutely amazing, and her modality of wellness is just truly transformational. So let's get into it. So Sera is a certified Dream Awake EFT tapping practitioner. She's an international performer, trained actress, writer, it just goes on and on, Reiki practitioner, lover of languages, and a lifelong creative rebel. And she's devoted to our higher expression in life and art. What a beautiful biography.
Thank you. For all of us.
For all of us. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into discovering tapping?
Absolutely. It was something I never sought out to do. I'm equally surprised to be in this position today. There was never a day I woke up and said, I'm going to become a practitioner of emotional freedom techniques and not only, help myself in my own career, but also help the careers of others and lives of others. So when I moved back from Uzbekistan, that's where I went to a Russian theater school. I met my husband there. Beautiful, monumental moments in my own life and career. And then moving back into the States, there was a lot of deep, unresolved emotions and traumas that I'd never been able to fully vocalize. Some things from childhood, of course, ancestral stuff, as we all have. But when I moved back to the States, there was some really just intense happenings and experiences in my life. And I found myself in my late 20s entirely frozen in time. So I'd always struggled with insomnia. That's been something I've struggled with since childhood. And I used to think, like I used to just sleep an hour or two a night. And I know now that it's just such a sign of a dysregulated nervous system. But I didn't have that awareness. I didn't have the ability to articulate such a thing. And it's not like it was really spoken about in medical fields at the time. So when I came back, I moved to New York. I brought my husband over from Uzbekistan. I'm also an immigrant to the States. I was born in Canada, so been through the American immigration system twice. But I found myself just locked in time. I had debilitating anxiety. I'm talking about panic attacks every day, and it just compounded. It was OCD, just really, really, really limiting thoughts and emotions and perceptions of myself and what was possible for me. I think all of us deep down have a sense of what we're here to do and give to humanity. I think we've known that since childhood. Maybe, I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for myself. And so I really didn't understand. There was this cognitive dissonance of like, I have these massive dreams and desires to serve the world, and so why am I so locked? Why am I so miserable? Why can't I get through the day without spiraling out or having a panic attack or having to like turn the light off 20 times to feel safe in my body? So I went the traditional route of talk therapy and pharmaceuticals, and it was just the surface, right?
You needed something semantic.
Yes, exactly. And then things like Reiki and hypnosis and meditation got introduced to my life, and I felt relief. I felt I was able to sleep a bit better. I was able to find more calm in my being. But it wasn't until I found tapping and the Dream Awake method in particular that things transformed at such an accelerated and deep and profound pace.
Wow.
So when I in particular found my teacher, Jennifer Partridge, she's essentially the leading EFT expert in the world right now. She's created this incredible, dynamic, multi-dimensional modality of Dream Awake tapping. And it's been such a thrill to share it with you here in Los Angeles, and now we get to share it here today. But when I first found her, I didn't know I could move such density in my being in 20 minutes and feel such immense relief and openness and expansion and possibility. And I said, that's 20 minutes? That's 20 minutes. Yes. What can happen if I pursue this? So
you stay committed. It's a practice, isn't it? You've got to keep doing it.
Exactly. So I didn't ever intend to become a practitioner. That wasn't on my agenda. I wanted to just get free in my body. I wanted to go through the day or the week without having an anxiety attack. I wanted to just have more positive self-esteem and talk in my life. I have the capacity to control how I think, let alone how I feel, let alone what I believe, and that I have some kind of say in how my life goes. And this is, I mean, we're going to get into the ancestral imprints, the childhood imprints, and all the influences that we've inherited that we might not even be aware of, because so often our pain isn't quite our own. It's something we've that's been passed down through the family line. But essentially, that is how I ended up here. I became a practitioner so I could study so deeply. I studied with my teacher for 1.5 years. And it was through that I was tapping nearly every day, 90 minutes a day, facilitating sessions, receiving sessions, and so much was cleared. I had people in my life that I hadn't seen for 1 year. I met up with them. They're like, your whole field has just settled. My voice dropped into its natural register, which as an artist, and I didn't do any specific vocal work. It was just a natural resonance in my body.
You were grounded. You were one with self.
It was, and I'd never felt it before, except perhaps on stage.
I want to know a little bit more about how the change showed up in your life. Like, what were those moments where you're like, oh my God, I'm a completely different woman?
Yes,
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it happened kind of in what one could say mundane moments. I just remember walking down the street one day and speaking and saying, I've never felt my voice resonate like that before. And it really, and then I was like, how, that's just such a funny thing. I was like, no, I've been tapping every day for 1.5 years. That's probably what it is. There's so many things, right?
For those who don't know what we mean by your tone of voice or your register changing, can you explain what you mean by that? Like,
sure,
when you dropped into your natural voice.
Absolutely. As a human and an actor. Well, as actors specifically, we train our voices like a muscle, right? And to create freedom on stage, on screen, or in life, we need that place of neutrality almost, where we can go anywhere where we want to be. So before, I didn't even know my voice was suffocated, or it was tightened, or there was tension there. And which again is just an example of how there was tension and tightness in my whole body, which then reflected and rippled out into my life, right? This is a self-reflective universe. This was also preventing me from fully sharing my voice, and then also receiving at the same time. So I can only describe it as the somatic sensation of it used to be here, and now it's here, where my vocal cords are.
Did you find you were always talking like this really fast, like almost sounding really apologetic?
Oh, I was super apologetic and people pleasing. It's something I'm still moving through.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. I think I apologized for my very existence for the first, 32 years of my life. Truly. It's also standing. To me, it's just owning your power without having to prove, without having to push, without having to force, without having to say something. This is who I am. This is simply who I am. And there's a deep trust and relaxation there. Which that I feel, and I hope that others can feel too. And that is just such a great metaphor for what the transition that's happened in every area of my life, right? I can say that certain things have opened up in my acting career, and my finances, and my health and vitality, and my self-concept, in the way I go about my dreams and my mission, and what I want to give to humanity. It's a beautiful deconditioning and reconditioning.
Okay, Sera, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Tell us about how we can use tapping to release traumas. You mentioned you had OCD, debilitating anxiety, and all the things. How can we use tapping to help?
Beautiful. So I want to start there with what you mentioned with OCD and anxiety. And this is what I've learned from my own process of healing my own OCD, anxiety, and insomnia, right? It's always an evolution. There's always a deeper layer. There's always more we can grow into. And I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a professional psychologist. This is what I know from my own experience and being a facilitator of emotional freedom techniques and witnessing the change in my clients. But anxiety, OCD, insomnia are most likely symptoms of a deeper issue, of a deeper unresolved moment in time that gets lodged in our tissues. Right? I don't know if you've heard the phrase, the issues in the tissue.
I haven't. I love that. I think that's great. The issue is in the tissue.
It's a nice rhyme. I don't know if I like saying issue, maybe challenge or struggle.
Did you make that up, Sera?
I didn't. So the beauty of tapping is that, well, I mean, there's so many beautiful aspects of it. But essentially, wherever there's emotion, you can use EFT.
Right.
And the thing is, when a trauma occurs, whether a physical trauma, a chemical trauma, or an emotional trauma, a lot of what we're finding in our world right now is a lot of unprocessed emotional traumas that we've just been unaware of, which is a beautiful thing, right? There's new awareness burgeoning, there's new awakenings happening. But we are learning the tools to move through this with more grace. And I also want to make a point that whatever you've either experienced yourself or you've inherited from your family, or something happened in childhood, or something happened last week at the office that has just been plaguing your thoughts, I really want to make it known that it is always possible to heal and transform. No matter the caliber, no matter the level, no matter what has happened,
it's possible to heal.
It's possible. And I think that really needs to be said, because we're learning now in science that our genes, our DNA, our brain tissue, our cells, they're dynamic. They can evolve. So the beauty of tapping is that it's psychosomatic. Psychosomatic. So we're attending to the psychology of our thoughts, our emotions, our memories, our perceptions. That's a pillar of tapping, right? It's a combination of modern psychology, Chinese medicine, and neuroplasticity that we whip up all together to create the lives that we actually want to be living. So when we're looking at our genes, this is epigenetics. This is a new, not so new, but a relatively new emergence in biology. It used to be known that our genes are set for life. Like, that's what science thought. This is what you've inherited. This is what you get. Your life's going to be like this.
But that's not true. They can change.
Exactly. And it's not just based on external factors, right? It's not just like where you were born or where you live or perhaps a physical trauma that occurred to you. It moves in response to our interiority. So it's our emotions, it's our thoughts, it's our perceptions. They have as much of an impact on how our genes express themselves and how our DNA evolves. And this is what we not only get to, experience in our own lives, but pass on through time to the future generations. So truly, not only are you able to liberate yourself from a struggle, clear the family line back from the struggle, but supercharge that energy forward and gift it to children. And that's just one miraculous thing that tapping does, right? There's psychoneuroimmunology. It's the awareness that our thoughts and emotions have an impact on our nervous and immune systems, that our thoughts have the capacity to actually make us sick. And if they have the capacity to make us sick,
I believe that to be true, yes.
Then they also have the capacity to make us well. And then we get into the neuroplasticity, right? Where we actually go into the neural networks in our brain. And this is all through the tapping process. We go in there and we say, is this serving me anymore? Do I want to be thinking this way? Do I want to believe this way? Do I want to embody this? Is this how I want to feel on a daily basis? And if no, then we're able to rewire.
Through tapping.
Yes.
My goodness.
It is. It's so magical. And it's so simple. but it hits every part of your being. All parts of self come in for healing all at once.
Yeah.
And that's why the energy moves so fast. And you'll see in our upcoming session, or the session that's happening now, why we experience things like off-gassing. So the body is processing the emotion and releasing it and transmuting it as it needs to. That's why when you're tapping, you might experience hiccuping, burping, yawning, tingling, change in temperature. You might get sleepy, you might feel nauseous, you might even break wind. It's all the body's way of processing what's been stuck and stored and clenched and held together, because that's how most of us move throughout our lives. We're like this.
Yeah. I remember when I first did it, I was in floods of tears, but I felt so good after. Yeah. Like, it was such a release for me. And I was like, what is this? I need it in my life and I need to keep doing it. It's amazing. It truly is. Like, if you haven't done tapping before, this is an invitation for you to try something new. And I promise you, it's going to transform your life. So you're an artist. We spoke about you being an actress and a writer and all these other wonderful things. How has this modality helped you tap unintended, tap into your creativity?
Oof. So just like tapping can be used to heal deep-seated trauma, I mean, it's used on war veterans, it's used on victims of sexual abuse. It can also be used for everyday stress and weight management, or if you're wanting to release weight. And it's also used for high performance and success and releasing money blocks. As I said, anywhere where there's emotion, tapping can be used, right? And we're getting not just into the conscious part, we're getting deep into the subconscious, where all our patterns and programs live.
Exciting.
So it's a shedding and it's a rebuilding at the same time. And that happens at the same time during a session. We're releasing all the density and then we're choosing how we want to think and feel, believe. So how do I want to feel as a creative being in the world? What kind of things do I want to bring forth? How do I want to feel in the process of creating my dreams?
Because it's the feeling, right? It's not, how do I think necessarily? Yes, that is a part of it, but it's more about how you feel.
Yeah. Yes, I remember actually in a session with you, I think I shared this beautiful quote by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He talks about how you can never think greater than how you feel.
How do you remember that? I have that written down in my notes on my phone. That's incredible.
Because I'm still learning. Even though I've been studying for so long and been a practitioner for so long, I'm very hungry to learn, because I've seen the change in me and the change in others.
Yeah, I mean, my mind is blown. That was a long time ago, first of all. And I was like, oh my God, writing it down. Well, not physically, but I had my notes and I wrote it down in my notes, and I remember sharing it on social media. This was ages ago.
Oh my goodness.
So it just goes to show how in tune you are with the process and the participants.
It's really sweet.
Yeah, I'm touched by that. The fact that you remember that's incredible.
Absolutely. Because it changed my life, learning that.
Yeah, it changed my life learning that too.
And that's the beauty. That's where tapping starts, right? You're changing your energy. Emotion is energy in motion.
Right.
A lot of people move to the mindset space for whatever reason. It's more popular. One may think they have more control. When we drop into the body, emotion can take over your being. It's harder, or we don't have the full attuned skills of knowing how to move through this, right? And again, the beauty of tapping is that it's so simple. You can do it for 5 minutes, you can do it for an hour, and an hour of tapping reduces cortisol by 43%. That's the stress hormone. Incredible. So literally, so much is happening in your being. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically, physically, it touches all parts of you.
Wow. Okay, let's imagine we're about to do a session. Tell the audience what that might look like.
Oh, a group session, right?
A group session, yes.
Because I facilitate one-on-one and I facilitate group sessions, and I love doing both.
I'm a group girly.
I know. The beautiful thing about a group session, not just because I'm an actress and I love being with the ensemble and I love cultivating that energy. We really do change.
I had to talk ensemble.
I know, ensemble. The energy of the room shifts. It chemically alters. So I love to work in a circle. I love the fluidity. I love the connection. No one is above the other, not even me. we're all in this together. So in a group session, there's this wonderful thing that happens called borrowing benefits. So today we're focusing on ancestral healing, clearing ancestral pain. And let's say you've stumbled across this video, you love Marissa, you just want to invest your time and energy and money with her, and you're like, get me on this. But you're like, well, I actually don't feel like I have much to move through or heal from my ancestral line. Even you participating with us now today gives your subconscious mind an opportunity to clear whatever residual stuckness, stagnancy, resistance, trauma may be living in there. So we're all benefiting through this process. So to start a group session, I really anchor into safety. That to me is the key. As an actress, as a practitioner, as a human, the goal of our subconscious, the goal of our nervous systems is safety. And what's safe to us is familiar. Even if we know intellectually, like actually know this pattern doesn't serve me, if it's something that we've somatically either lived through or inherited, we can't move through it intellectually. It has to move through the actual process of tapping, of breathing, of shaking, of moving that density, right? But the key is safety. And that's how we build our window of tolerance. So in tapping, the goal is to feel. That's the magic of it. So often in life we don't want to feel, but the goal here is to feel, because that's how we process the emotional contents of it. And I want to also say, I know we need to talk about the actual mechanics of how the session works, but I'm just going back to what you asked about trauma. What's so unique about tapping is that the treasure is in the trigger. So often when we're triggered in our lives, right? Maybe it's something someone texted you about, or it's something you saw on TV, or something that happened in your neighborhood. The beauty of tapping is that we embrace the charge, we embrace the activation, and that's how we clear it. It's not by shutting it down. Yes. So I see I'm triggered. Great, there's something here for me to bring love and empathy and compassion to. And that is the essence of an EFT session. So I love to sit in a circle. I do say an oath because I want to make that safety in terms of so we all feel safe to express. Right. As you're doing this at home, it's really important to speak out loud. I really encourage you. I will be offering a script that you can, for instance, if I say I'm feeling really angry right now, but you're feeling really sad, say that you're feeling sad. So it's attuned to your experience. And through this, we're going to be having very personal journeys in a collective journey. So I start with a grounding exercise to create and cultivate that foundation of safety. And then through the session, we're going to be tapping all together at the same time, speaking. We're going to be so immersed in our own process, we're not going to be paying attention to what someone else is saying. But I also do want to say to keep tapping. That is required.
It's a practice.
Yeah, well, even in the middle of a session, it can be really intense. It can get uncomfortable. It can be just, some things might surface that you've actually never felt before, that have always been there. Tapping cannot plant anything negative. It only brings out what is there and heals it with love. So the most important thing is to keep tapping. You can always come back to tapping on your chest and just reiterating, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. I've got this, I'm safe. But I also really feel the energy of the group, and there's not ever pushing. There's not you need to heal this now or else, right? It's always the perfect moment to meet what arises. And then when we get to the end of the session, we really get to cast those new visions, those positive health, vital visions of how we want to think, how we want to feel, how we want to behave, what we want to allow into our life. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. And I think the thing that stuck out to me was you've got to keep doing it. You've got to stay committed. So for those who are new to tapping, what advice would you give them to get started? Just get started and to stay committed, because it's in the commitment, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's like anything. You don't just go to a yoga class once. You don't just eat
broccoli
once. I'm great. Life is perfect. It becomes a ritual, right? It becomes a beautiful habit. So first, I'm a very kinesthetic person, and I like to experience things through the body. But a lot of people might want to read up about it. A lot of people might want to listen to a podcast about it. Whatever sparks your curiosity, I would follow that. There's no right way into this process, but the best way to experience the shifts is to do it. So there's a lot of amazing tapping practitioners on YouTube. There's also my amazing teacher on YouTube. Again, the Dream Awake method is a little different than just the classical and clinical. It's in my opinion, it's much more dynamic and nuanced and multidimensional and dives super deep. But any type of tapping is amazing. And begin to start small, start slow, work on things maybe where you don't feel super activated and super triggered. We can just work on maybe simple things. I don't know if back pain is a simple thing, but if you have some back pain, if maybe you want to develop a better habit of moving your body or speaking to yourself in a different way, right? We're opening ourselves to process things that we've never tapped into before. And when you feel ready, I definitely recommend working with a practitioner, because there's some things that can only be unlocked and unearthed and excavated in that practice, right? Because when you're doing it for yourself, it's a very simple technique. You can do it. I do it driving in the car, safely driving in the car, right?
It's like driving in the car, she's tapping.
No. Sometimes I used to have anxiety about driving, so I'd like, this is safe, we're all safe. Don't do it in the car. I'm just saying, for me, like, I used to get a lot of anxiety driving, so I just tap my chest and breathe. But just making a ritual out of it, moving it into it as a self-care practice, making it something that is like a gift to your future self, right? That's at least how I've found.
Lovely. lovely.
Move through it.
How can my audience work with you? Tell us about your offers, what you're excited about, what's next.
Yes, beautiful. So I have a burgeoning YouTube channel. I have a few videos up there that have really offered some major shifts for people, which is really a remarkable thing. So I intend to keep sharing that. I also have some one-on-one offerings that will be linked below, and a very special offering for ancestral healing for Marissa's audience, because I know the power and potency and necessity of this work, especially at this moment in time.
Absolutely.
And I also...
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yes!
I really appreciate
my
that.
pleasure.
Please, guys, take advantage of that.
It's my pleasure. There's something so magical that can happen in group spaces, but also one-on-one spaces, because it's curated to you. And what I love most of all is that we have this profound session together, but you get to keep the recording for life. Like, it's yours. You get to do it as many times as you want. And I really do believe also in integrating this work, right? That's something we talked about in our sessions together, because we don't just want to have these monumental, profound experiences, but we want to integrate and embody them into our lives. So it's building new musculature in ourselves, right? We're choosing not just a new way, but acting on it too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think I'm on Substack now, opening there.
She's on all the things.
I have a podcast. It's like this.
All her links will be down below, so check her out. Thank you so much, Sera, for joining me.
It's an honor. I feel like we
likewise
can talk so much more.
Yeah, we may have to do a part 2.
Oh, maybe we do a part 2.
Should we do a part 2? I think we should do a part 2. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marissa.
Okay, guys, thank you for joining me today on Wellbeing with Marissa. If you made it this far in the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. And also in the comments, engage with me. Tell me, what did you learn today? Have you taken anything away from what Sera has said? Is this something that you're considering trying? And don't forget to take advantage of the ancestral healing tapping session that Sera is offering us. So sweet. Thanks again. See you next time.